unconscious to the fact of our nature. Yeah, and of course, it's uncomfortable, so you want to get out, yet you try to get out of self as self, and it obviously fails. And it will keep repeating to fail. As we know, many of us have been driven into a wall by self, and it basically just gets towed away from the wall and gets into another vehicle. So it runs into the wall. Spirituality, workaholism, being good, all of these things, yet it's the same picture on the driver's license. Yeah.
You got great metaphors, bro.
Yeah. You're not the driver, you're being driven. That's the bondage of self. To be driven is a bondage to something, yes? In a way. So I'm driven somewhere that you may not want to go, but it doesn't matter, yeah, because you're powerless. And this is that dilemma of powerlessness. We demonstrate the condition of powerlessness, yet we have this assumption that we have power. And it's a frustrating assumption that withstands a lot of investigation. You just fucking believe if you manage better, it will go well. Yeah. Yeah. It's the thing. So all the other effects, it's sort of like, let's say you're living after the bondage of self. Man, you've got to have a lot of skillful means. Keep that terror at bay. You do. Yeah. It's like a lot of maintenance to keep it locked in the closet, so to speak. Yeah. Now, many of us have been, let's say, rocketed into the fourth dimension, which is really before the bondage of self. Yeah. So there is a large space, and let's call it a timeless time, that is before the bondage of self. Yeah. And we're really citizens of that. Yeah. As Jesus says, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. Yeah. In this world seems there's a lot of selves. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're not of that. What? So you're not of self. So the bondage of self is exactly that, of self. Bonded of self. So we believe we are of self. Yeah. We believe we're a long-lasting independent. We don't. There's a belief, and then in the language, the English language, it's seen as we believe. But what is that we? It's a difficult one to put a thumb on. So, but a lot of people at the Zoom are right now living before the bondage of self. Yeah. Not after being relieved of the bondage of self, because being relieved from the bondage of self, you're jettisoned to the moment you're already in. Yeah. So the freedom is actually before the bondage of self. The freedom that is a form of slavery is trying to get free after the bondage of self, because now you're in the act of being identified as self, trying to get out of self. Yeah. This was an observation by a lot of people, a well-earned observation in our community. Self can't get out of self. So after the bondage of self, there's no true relief from the bondage of self, because we're living as the bondage of self. Before the bondage of self, there's a huge amount of possibility. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I read something the other day that said 99% of everything you do is for yourself, and there isn't one.
Yeah, that's from Wei Wu Wei. Yes.
Yeah, Wei Wu Wei. It was Wei Wu Wei. Yeah, it was out of David Carson's book.
Oh, well, it's from a guy named Wei Wu Wei.
Yeah.
I think, and an old Irish dude.
Yeah.
I took a Chinese pseudonym
Yeah.
writing. Why not?
Yeah. Well, he's kind of like Wayne. Wayne lives down here, and he wrote one of his books. He wrote, I think it was Ram Zoo was his.
Sue, yes, yeah. Yeah. I mean, no one's going to listen to Timothy O'Hearn, but they may listen to Wei Wu Wei.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Who's
yeah.
going to listen to a fucking Irish person? But if Wei Wu Wei, wow, that's sounds ancient.
Yeah, very spiritual.
Sounds ancient and wise. Yeah. So whatever. So I got this feeling of the before and after because here, if you get a sense that this is a dreaming, yeah, don't you feel that way? I mean, you're having a subjective experience that could only happen in dreaming. Yeah, if you were in an objective experience, you would be imposed upon by a lot of shit. Yeah, but basically, we give everything all the meaning it has, means we're dreaming. Yeah, it does. So we're having a subjective experience as an object. That's the epitome of duality, which non-duality is negating. Yes. It's negating that we're living a subjective experience as an object. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Try to make sense out of that. The head does. The head tries to make sense out of it every day.
Right.
It goes to insane lengths to rationalize shit it doesn't understand. Instead of just throwing its hands up and saying, don't know, it fucking will fight to the death to be right about something it doesn't know. It's insane. Or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So we're talking specifically about being restored to sanity concerning the insanity that precedes the first drink. That's basically the promise of recovery, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you may be bitching about a lot of other stuff, but a lot of us have been delivered that promise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we now have some sanity before the first drink. Yeah. So we don't take the first drink. And then when you don't take the first drink, a lot of the shit's academic because there's no need to apply skillful means because you're not fucking setting the engine. You're not the engine isn't being turned on, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like before the engine's turned on and after the engine's turned on, before the bondage of self, after the bondage of self. Yeah. If the engine is turned on and you're going down the cliff and shit, you need certain solutions. And if the engine isn't turned on and there's a cliff, yeah. The engine being on the vehicle pointing at the cliff could mean a lot of shit. If the vehicle is just pointing at a cliff, it's a vista. Yeah, you're seeing a beautiful view. Yeah, so this is the thing. The head wants to, the head, listen to the head.
Yeah.
It places you as an afterthought. You're not becoming a self, you already are one.
Yeah.
It puts it in historical stamp on its narration to give it authenticity. So now you are one and it makes sense to get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does because it's uncomfortable being the object of thought all day. Yeah, it drives fucking it is. I mean, the thought likes to do shit privately, like the body, like take a shit, clean up the stain from the BO and there's your head constantly observing you as some kind of special object that should be a better subject. Yeah. It's fucking insane to take that if that you know what I mean? You ever work at a service job like a contractor? The worst situation would be having the owner standing behind you looking over your shoulder while you're working. It sort of sucks, yeah. And your work is usually worse with that fucking constant harping over you. This is what we're living with. We've got a talking monkey that's riding our back, yapping constantly, yeah, about being afraid of losing what it has and not getting what it wants. It's insane. Seems so loud because we're listening to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we believe it in a way. And this is the whole point. Perhaps there's a better way. What is the better way? Trusting the infinite rather than finite self. So they're basically saying the conditions we find ourselves in are based on trusting finite self. If you read it, that's what it's implying. Where you are right now is you've been trusting finite self. You is not finite self. How could self trust self? Yeah. So there's something other than self that's trusting self. Yeah. Just like we meet another something other, which is a higher power to turn our will and life over to the care of, we're actually living a life of our life and will being turned over to the care of this lower power. Yeah. That which is playing God in the head. Yeah, we are. Tell the truth about it. Yeah. Why would we look at mirrors all day if we didn't think we were the body that we're looking at?
Right.
Why would we go to a mall and every freaking mirror, window, use it as a mirror to see your reflection as a body? But you never seem to reflect on the spiritual condition. Yeah. Constantly seeking reflections of the physical condition. Yeah. Yeah, we're sitting, we think we're before the game getting ready to play. We've lost the fight. Yeah. We've been beaten by this identification as something that we're not. Yeah, and some of us are going to need a long recovery from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. I mean, the trauma that the head has made up has left scars on even the body. Yeah.
Yeah.
That fear that's really produced by mental anxiety has us, almost as if we've been getting electrocuted a little bit every day, many times a day. Fucked up. Yeah. Have you ever seen someone from afar? I remember it looked like this lady was getting an interview with this guy at this table. Yeah. Now, there was a table, and then she looked from here up. She was very calm and everything, but her legs were flipping out underneath the table with these questionings, completely flipping out. It's just like this. She was very calm, sitting there, but fucking flipping out. What's going on? Yeah. So, geez, sometimes you meet a person, and if you spend a little more time looking at their eyes, fucking the insanity is floating right by. They're like fucking rabid, going crazy. Yeah. Maybe they have a lot of money that's enabling them and they dress really well. But if you look at their mannerisms, they're like someone you would see in a hallway in an insane asylum. But they have a, nice, beautiful Gucci bag and they've got enough money to keep themselves going. But they're insane, literally, looks like. Yeah. Yeah. So, oh, so please relieve us of the bondage of self. Does that mean the bondage of self isn't presented? I do not believe so. I believe the head is in the bondage of self. If you're listening to the head is in the bondage of self. It's constantly living out the act of being identified as self. And in time, it's a historical event. So you already are self. Yeah. So good luck trying to get out of it, or not be it. You already are it. Yep. Being relieved of the bondage of self doesn't mean the bondage of self stops.
Right.
It means you're not listening to the bondage of self. You're hearing it, but you're not listening to it. You are now truly being directed by something else other than the bondage of self. The bondage of self will continue because the head is in the bondage of self. As the Course in Miracles, if you've ever heard of it, says,
Yep.
The brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. So what we're listening to is a narration coming from the brain's reaction to conscious contact, living, and everything, how it sees everything is seen as how it pertains to a body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to change. What's going to change is your interest level in it.
Yeah.
So the relief from the bondage of self is a loss of interest in self, just like it says on page 63, around 63, which all of the effects of recovery really pivot on losing interest in self. That's what it is. Does it mean self is gone? No, but there's a loss of interest in it. That's the key. Because some people believe if the head keeps yapping, they're still not clear. No, they're super clear that the head keeps yapping. Yeah. So
Yeah,
they're still
that's
getting
a hard
robbed
one to
of the
get across.
relief. They're
Yeah.
still getting robbed of the relief because the activity is still going on, but they're not driven by that activity now. You're
Right.
not turning left when it says turn left. You're not turning right when it says turn right. You're not listening to it now. That is the established of being before the bondage of self.
Yeah.
You're listening to something else. Some people would say the heart, the spirit, I don't care. But it's basically you're not listening to that. Yeah, you're hearing it because you're
Yeah.
conscious, but
Yeah.
you're not listening to it. You're not leaning into it. Your decisions aren't based on it, as it says in the book. Yeah, you will make decisions based on self that are going to set off trains of circumstances that are going to bring us misfortune we feel we don't deserve, which means we deserve a drink around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And this is how it just furthers its whole fucking occupation. So the bondage of self does not stop, and it doesn't have to stop for you and I to be free from. Yeah, because the bondage isn't the activity; it's the interest in the activity. Yeah.
Well, you
When,
said something. I think I think Emerson said. He said, you said a lot of times we use the wrong words to describe what we're really talking about. Like fear. Mental anxiety,
yes.
or like you said, like people. I would say. Um, I'd say tell people sometimes just get some popcorn and watch the show. Sit down and watch the show because what you think is the relief from it. What you think, keyword think, isn't the relief from it. It's like I use an analogy of when I really saw that Santa Claus didn't exist, I didn't have to go back next week and remind myself.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was like
Yes.
it was a done deal.
That's being convinced.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's being convinced. Yeah, yeah,
Most of us are way past the point of being convinced.
mm, yeah, yeah.
It's almost abusive at this point. Yeah. The evidence is in. You don't need to pile up any more evidence.
Right.
Just put on a new pair of glasses and check it out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You have been fucked enough. Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something wants to use us for something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get
Well,
on.
that's the benefit of this meeting. It's like constantly pushed up against.
Well, it needs to be
Yes.
because it's easy to go off on other tangents.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you miss the forest from the trees.
Yeah.
So we go walking, we don't even know about the forest, but we're becoming professors of all the individual trees.
Hmm.
Yes? This is how the head does it. The head tries to slice up topics and get you very interested in these topics, never seeing the connection in all the topics. Yeah? Just seeing, oh, this is my problem. No, the one who thinks it has the problem is the problem.
Problem. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So with this platform, we can stay on point because and it's exciting to go
Yeah.
off and, da, 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 da. But basically, uh, it's a way of distracting. It's almost as if there's something living in you that has a complete different agenda than what you think is yours. Yeah.
Mhm.
And is pretty much running the whole show without you knowing it.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
why I humbly believe if everyone has a weird thing, why do people leave before the inventory? Why do people take months to do an inventory when you walk into a room with people, you do an inventory right there and then on everyone in there? Yeah.
mhm.
Just
Yeah.
like almost for protection sometimes. Like when I used to go to a club, I have to check people out. Yeah. See if there was undercover cop or something. Yeah, because you could tell sometimes. And then you could tell the people from your same breed, the coke addicts, you could tell. Da, da, da. You do a quick inventory. You would assess the threat level of whatever situation you're in. Now we have this incredible opportunity to go over us, and then someone's going to actually sit and listen to all this shit for hours, and it's like it's put off for months. Yeah. I humbly believe why is something's in there that doesn't want you to look at your role in things because you will see its role in things. You will not see its role in things if you keep looking at other people's role in things. So it's totally into looking at other people's role in things, especially in your things. But it does not want you to look at your role in things. That is not, that's such a weird, no, it isn't. It's obviously something in you is trying to block the vision that you are so that you don't see it. Yeah. Try something. Give me a better answer.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah. There isn't.
People love you take an inventory. Every person walks into a meeting. You do a quick assessment. Yet months and months of pulling teeth to get you to look at what your role in things. Yeah, because something doesn't want that to be seen. That something is not of you. Yes. Yeah.
Thank God.
Well, thank God is right. There is a solution. And the solution isn't for it, it's a solution from it. Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
when you're identified as self, you live as self every day of your life. And mostly it's an interpretation from self-centeredness. Yeah.
And don't even know it, man.
And as it goes along, there's less living and more interpretation to the point you're sitting in some rabbit hole on the internet, getting your yayas out, being right about how wrong everyone else is. Yeah. No one else is really thinking about you that much. Probably. They're not. It's not a master plan, a giant conspiracy to fuck with you. They're too busy doing, grabbing shit and stuff. Yeah. And then the fear that you think people are going to control you, it's already done. You've given all your information to that website. That website has been sold. And now, if you ever had a hernia, they keep trying to sell you hernia belts. And after 12 years or 15 years after the operation,
Oh, that's classic.
it just goes on and on.
All
I'm
right.
afraid, don't. You're living it. Point of fear. Yeah, yeah. So this is just how where I came to in 36 years of sobriety. Yeah. I didn't start here. It came out of a lot of observation, a lot of pauses, a lot of surrenders, a lot of being convinced, a lot of meeting a lot of people with alcoholism and other addictions, and seeing I very rarely have met people. I've mostly met addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. In some form or the other, the person was underneath the prominent characteristic, which was the addiction. Yeah. So
Mhm.
after a while, meeting 500 different people, I talked to one person. I talked to alcoholism most of the time.
Mhm.
And as soon as I heard the alcoholism, I fucking lost interest because the story was not going to lead to a good ending. Yeah. And I would just say, hey, bro, I have no idea who you are, but you're fucked. And you're done. Yeah. I don't need an idea. I know I have an idea of what you're not, which is alcoholic and
Yeah,
drug addict, and you're fucked unless it's dealt with. Yeah.
right, right.
If you cross the line, I don't know. Maybe you're just a heavy user.
Yeah.
But if you cross the line, bye-bye.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So, I mean, we're all fortune tellers, aren't we? You can meet a person at a meeting and tell them, you could tell them the rest of their life if they don't get sober.
Yeah.
And you'd be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
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 Because we know what has them because that has had us. Yeah. We have been taken over by the bondage of self, and they are in the act of being taken over by the bondage of self. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so sick and tired of talking to self. It blows my mind. But my nephew, I have good news. My nephew got in touch with me and he's sober for 9 months and now
Wow.
got an apartment in Freeport, Long Island. And the only requirement for him to keep that apartment given to him by the state is not to drink or use. So let's hallelujah. Hopefully he stays sober a day at a time.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I hadn't heard from him in a couple of years. That means shit. And then he's resurfaced and I mean, uh, it's tough to
Well,
be.
he finally circled the drain, huh?
Huh?
He finally circled the drain,
Oh, he's been Drano. He's been
huh?
not even circling the drain. Yeah. But I mean, it's tough to be a 60-something-year-old addict. Fuck.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Right. Right.
The most telling thing he said to me a couple years ago, a year or two ago, he called me up and he was in a rehab that he had been in 25 years before.
Wow.
So that huge life wasn't so huge.
Hmm.
Yeah. The the thing constantly gets tighter, tighter. When you're going down the drain, it gets tighter, tighter. Yeah. And if you don't see that as an indication, you find yourself in a rehab that you were in 25 years before, based on the same condition you're in now. 25 years, the same fucking condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think anyone needs more evidence than that? Look at what happens to people. Yeah.
Yeah.
They become just a giant wash because they're not people in a sense anymore. They're taken over by something that really uh, is what you meet when you meet them. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, the spirit is there still, which is the beauty. That's why there is a solution. Because no matter how bad it gets, it's still a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. It's appearing to them, and it's even maybe appearing to you that they're in a hopeless state of mind and body, but they're not.
Hmm.
It's an appearing a hopeless state of mind and body, seemingly. So there's
Seeming.
always a solution. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought he was gone and now he's resurfaced and he's sober. Fantastic. So stoked about.
Yeah.
I may even try to see him when I go back there. Going back there in a week or so.
Right. Yeah. We're coming up. I guess next month. Mitchell got a house up there for a month, and I'll call you when we come up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. Hopefully we're all sitting in a space called before the bondage of self.
Yeah.
So let's get some information about self. Yeah. And so that we can see it's not us. So while it keeps telling the story of it and sells it to us as us, we stop subscribing to its little fucking story. Yeah. I have. Most of us have.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
doing, it's telling me to turn left up there. I'm not turning left
Yeah.
with no effort or thought. I'm in the habit of being sober. I'm in the habit of being driven by something other than self. I'm in the habit of it. It's easy. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. If it acts up, I have amends. Yeah. And an amend has some weight because really, truly, if I find myself doing something to someone that's not kosher, I'm going to commit to not doing that to anyone else. And,
Yeah.
and mostly it happens because there's power behind the recognition. Yeah. That's to me, an amend. An amend is not saying you're sorry, obviously, but making a statement. What I did to you, I don't want to do to anyone else. And I think I've got some power behind me to sort of live up to that. Yeah. 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 It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, remember all the sorries and all the bullshit.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
fucking it's so,
I swear it'll never happen again. I
yeah.
swear.
It was so, I remember when I got sober and I returned to like a club because I used to go to a lot of clubs, yeah. So maybe about the 6 month period, I figured, hey, maybe I can go back to my old stomping grounds, not drinking and using, because I was clear I wasn't going to drink or use. So I went to a club and I was talking to this lady, and the act of being charming was occurring. And she was sitting like 4 feet from me, and then the bullshit came out of me and just paused and just dropped to the ground. I mean, I was so full of shit. And then I just picked it up and left. And then I didn't have to go back to another club. So the shit was so obvious. It came out of my mouth, had no momentum. It just dropped. I said, sorry, bye. And same old, same old. It's incredible, yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
So
let me get these. So listen, we started the meeting without knowing we started the meeting, and the topic has been we're not burning energy foolishly as we did, or without knowing it, you've been brought here by faith, or I had a reading, but well, I really didn't have a reading. I asked Paul at the beginning of this. I said, "Is there anything you want to talk about?" Which is, he
before the
usually
bondage
talks.
itself.
Yeah, freedom from the bondage itself. So just to fill you guys in, kind of what was going on if you just dropped in on us. You want me to read the format?
No,
Okay.
not an AA meeting, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a
Just,
name. That's the one thing
just
everybody needs to know.
just members talking about the exact nature of the wrong. If you want to hear it described in the big book, it's on page 64. Being convinced self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. The sentence itself contains two poles, two polarities. One is the defeater, which is self, and the other is the defeated, which is us. We are not of the same cloth of what has defeated us. It has a nature that's agitated, and its origin is of the mind. As it says in the big book, the problem resides in the mind. That's its origin. Yes?
Yeah.
Its nature is foreign. Its characteristic is agitated. Yeah, there you go. And there is a solution. Now, usually the need for that solution is heard after the bondage of self, but the solution is really of before the bondage of self. Yeah, this is why the hopeless state we find ourselves in is only an appearance of an hopeless state, because what we are is never not going to be what we are as the spirit. Yes. So no matter how dirty our clothes look, we're still not dirty. Yeah. We just
Yeah.
need a change of clothes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
This is very important, I feel. And a lot of us have been restored to before the bondage of self.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there you go. In that space, the problem does not exist for us for all intents and purposes right now. It doesn't, does it? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an incredible freaking solution. Compared to the ferocity of the problem, it's unbelievable that you could enter a state where the problem does not exist for you anymore. Unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, most solutions don't even get close to that solution. That solution that will erase the existence of the problem in your life is fucking an incredible solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You got to
Yeah.
admit it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, if you find yourself after the bondage of self, there's a lot of stuff that may be needed to do. Yep. So that you can remember through free samples what it's like to be before the bondage of self. And this is why service is so important. So when someone speaks here and you have a sense that they're after the bondage of self and they want to go off on, let me study some philosophy, and you would recommend, no, I would say do service. Go there, go to a soup kitchen or something. I'm not talking to people you know, but with strangers, and just put yourself in a position to be of service, and you're going to get a free sample of what it's like before the bondage of self, which is feeling available and present, all this stuff. Yeah. So all we're trying to do after the bondage of self is get reminded what it was like before the bondage of self. Yep. There's tons of things you can do. We're in a program of recovery, so we're using the program of recovery's format, which is a way of living, a design for living. And the purpose is really to diminish the mental state, which is what self abides in, to allow another state to become obvious, which is the spiritual condition. Yep. And you'll find that the spiritual condition can outshine everything. Yep. All it needs is a little bit of opening to bring some light into your life. Yep. And that's after the bondage of self. Before the bondage of self, you're infused in that light. Yeah. That light's not something you're seeking. You're in it. Yeah. You're not looking for the relief of the bondage of self. You're not praying for it. You're enjoying the relief from the bondage of self. You're established there. Wow. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. And you become useful without trying to be useful. And you enter a stage of being of service, which is different than doing service. Because a lot of times people who are doing service are after the bondage of self. Being of service is before the bondage of self. Yeah. Because that's our nature, is to be of service. Yeah. We're like a tool.
Yeah.
We need to be used to get a sense of fulfillment as an action figure. If you keep using everything, you're probably going to feel fucking super empty. Yeah. But when you're used by something greater than your little ideas, it feels good. It does. It fulfills like a commitment that you've made that you don't remember. Yeah. Just to be of usefulness to others. Beautiful, isn't it? Brings out the best in most of us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So now we're established in before the bondage of self. Therefore, that can be very helpful for the people that are in the condition of being after the bondage of self. Again, incredibly helpful without even doing anything sometimes. You
Right.
sit there and you can be used as a great example without you knowing you're being used as a great example. Yeah. Have you ever met, when you meet old timers and they have been relieved of the bondage of self to some level, when they speak and their energy is it's got a weight to it. It's got some timber. It's good. Well, that's like living before the bondage of self. It sort of gives you some oomph. Like I remember we had people like what was his name? He was the oldest guy with AA. He was a dock worker, and we had Cy Payne, Frank Brennan. These guys were like fucking archetypes of sobriety when I was first in sobriety in San Francisco. Unbelievable, unbelievable people. And Frank had a knack of knowing something about you that he would remember. So you always felt so welcomed when he would say hello to you by your name and as a newcomer. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, really cool. So that's before the bondage of self. It is. Yeah. So what we're being restored to is before the bondage of self. Yeah. So what does it look like? You lose interest in self, basically. That's it. Is
Well,
self
it
there?
doesn't.
Yep.
It evokes when that seeing happens. It evokes an immense sense of gratitude and reverence. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
seems to, yes. And in honor also.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you joke a lot, but you really honor the
Yeah.
whole, yeah, yes.
Yeah. And giggle a lot.
Well, it's yeah, you are hilarious. By all your super seriousness. It's fucking hilarious. How I demand. Oh, God, it's a little dictator in there. But you can, yeah, you rule 62, you don't take yourself so seriously. That rule is enlivened by before the bondage of self, not after the bondage of self.
Yeah.
No, its efficacy is completely reinforced after the bondage of self. That, yeah, we need to lose interest in self. Yeah, and hope it's a joke. It's an inside joke, really, because
Yeah.
obviously self can't lose interest in
Yeah.
self.
Right.
So, so it's really a trigger. If you hear it when someone goes Rule 62, you got to lose interest in self. If you're in after the self, it's weird, doesn't it? It go, oh,
Well,
it's
that's what evoked my question to you because like I'll hear, a friend of mine said, and I've used this example before, he said, I'm really being hard on myself. And I said, well, there's another way to look at it. And I said, self's being hard on you and you believe it.
yes,
And you hear both sides of that coin more so, like you said, after the bondage of self. And it's interesting, even with the information, the language that's used to articulate that information is after the bondage of self because they keep going myself.
mostly.
I fucked up. I did that. It's like um, so that was what evoked my question in the
Well, it
book.
happens in the book when they say you manufacture your own misery. That's
Right,
a statement after the bondage of self.
right, right,
Before the bondage of self, you see that something other than you manufactures the misery through you.
right.
That's how I see it. Before the
Yeah,
bondage of self, after the bondage of self, what something is doing to you, you think you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the dilemma I have that is clearly defined if you look at our community.
Hmm.
Most of us easily adapt gratitude for something doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. Most people respond quickly. Yeah. They
Yeah,
feel grateful that they're not drinking, the urge has been removed. Yes. And they give credit for, like, hey, I met my wife in AA or all this stuff. And they're traveling lighter because there's not much ownership. They're immediately, hey, I'm grateful for this thing that's doing for me what I can't do for myself. But it's never applied to the past, that something did through us what we would never do by ourselves. Just never applied. Very rarely. I do not meet many people that apply it to the lower power. Yeah. Which is making the lower power accountable, just like we give accountability to the higher power now. I don't see the other aspect happening much.
hmm,
I think we're owning all the shit that something did through us that we wouldn't have done. And we are bound to that, which is the bondage of self. One of the greatest bondage of self is being the past doer of that insane shit while you were loading. Constantly being seen that you were the doer and you should have known better or you could have done something else.
right.
Fuck that.
Hmm.
That's all magical thinking after the bondage of self. No, yeah, something had you by the gonads and used you for transportation and left you literally holding the bag. And we've been carrying that bag, some of us, for 40 fucking years in recovery.
Hmm.
That to me is complete insanity.
Hmm. Yeah.
Seriously, complete insanity. It's time to put, that book about put down the rock of the fucking past accountability. You were driven to do that shit. You were not the driver of it.
Drop the
I can't
rock.
believe how it keeps fucking reasserting itself constantly in this community. What is it going to take to have that fucking revealed to us? We have the ability to give great thanks to something that's doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. I still believe that ability is able to look at the lower power that did through us what we would never have done by ourselves, yet it's not happening. I believe there's something in there that's foreign to us, that's blocking us from seeing the true doer of the shit that happened. I do, humbly.
Yeah.
And I humbly believe if it's heard enough, it may find some root. That's because we're living on soil that's constantly being moved and shaken. This is after the bondage of self. So you have to keep planting this shit
Okay.
with the hopes that it takes root so that you get some fruit from before the bondage of self. Yeah, and eat that. Hopefully juice it. Yeah.
Linda said hi.
Yes. Hi, Linda. Yeah. So I'm using this before and after because it's working for me the last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
giving me
That's
the flavor.
great.
It's the flavor we want to communicate. And so this I feel has a flavor, and I'm attempting to communicate that flavor, which is there is a space that has been untouched by what has come after. Yeah, there is. And the only way you're going to be clear about what comes after was from the before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you hear the word driven that describes us, we're not the driver. Yeah. And I do not believe we manufacture our own misery. I do not believe we are the problem. I don't. I do not. Yeah. I believe if misery could be manufactured by a factory, yeah, that factory could probably manufacture tons of other shit. If it's manufacturing misery, you know who's running the factory, and that is self. Yeah. So if self is running the factory that you represent, the product, one of the products you'll probably make is misery. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I see it from before the bondage of self. I do not see that I make my own misery. I do not.
Mm-hmm.
Do not believe I hate myself. I do not believe I'm my own worst enemy. I don't.
Yeah, I don't
Not believe it. I believe there may be there may be an enemy. I believe that there is something that hates me. I do that, but I do not believe it's me. No way. You're not gonna, it's like you'd have to hold my mouth open and pour this shit down. And because I'm not taking it in willingly anymore. I'm not into it. I don't believe it. And I mean, I have witnessed people that have this nagging hand, this nagging arm coming from 40 years ago, still holding them in the moment. Yes, fuck, like a soft, choke.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time they're moving to an incredible that the leash gets pulled, Oh, but I did all this shit. No, you fucking didn't do this shit. Nor are you doing the great miracles either. Yes?
Yeah.
Nor are you keeping yourself sober. No.
Yeah.
You're neither doing this nor that. It's not, oh, God's doing this, I did all that. That's not fucking clear. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That's not clear, is it?
No.
The thing in your head isn't playing you, it's playing God. So there's the God before the bondage of self, and there's the God after the bondage of self. Yes. Jesus Christ. We listen to that God, eh? Fucking over and over and over again. Jesus. I mean, how much is it going to take? I think it's just a lot of misunderstanding that's produced by the parasitical movement.
And reinforced.
Like an octopus in the water, when it gets threatened, it sets out that ink. We're living in a giant ink spot. Parasite not wanting to let you see its own ass. Yeah, I do.
Hey, Michael put a question. You want to bring that question in? I mean, it's relevant. I mean, it's pertinent to this what Paul's talking about, right?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. So it was from in the very beginning of the talk, and and I wrote to Kurt, I wrote in the chat, it seems I'm guilty of what Paul said about being in the bondage of self, trying to be free before. If that's the case, then what's to do? And then you kind of I kind of got my answer about 15 minutes ago, but and then I wrote, I'm not sure how to form the question because of the language, the doer. And then you talked about that too, about some of the language that we use is putting us back in the reinforcement of the bondage of self.
Well, there's going to be doing, but doing doesn't imply a doer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Water comes through the hose, but the hose isn't the source of the water.
Okay.
So there is a lot of doing. And before the bondage of self, it's more the basis of before the bondage of self is not doing, which is not drinking and not using. And hopefully that's an abstinence that you're in, a state of abstinence concerning that. So the not doing allows a whole lot of other doing to go on. Yeah. Now, I don't know how that's going to look, but I know how the frame of it is going to be, which is going to be the design for living that's been introduced to us through recovery. So, yeah, you may put a bigger window on the left side, whatever, an attic, but basically the skeletal diagram we've all followed, yes? And now it being in the habit of being sober, the doing that's going to occur, a lot of it isn't rote or based on any kind of design or a path. You're just living now. Yeah. Yeah. It's called like a free range alcoholic. Yeah. Yeah. You know the coop, you like to visit the coop, but you don't have to live in the coop. Yeah. Roaming around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you're not doing anything that much. Yeah. But you know, if you think doing is when there is how an effect occurs, there's a huge effect that happens from not doing in our book. Yeah. Us not drinking and not using is an incredible doing that we could not do before. Yeah. Yeah. So that not doing is producing a lot of fucking doing. Yeah. It's incredible. We just had to admit we couldn't not do it. Yeah.
Right.
And tell the truth about that. So that something could put an end to something that we seem to not be able to put an end to. Yeah. So we've been given the gift of not doing, which gives us a freedom in what we're going to do or not. Yeah. Yeah. Just like my nephew, he has freedom as long as he keeps the thing of not drinking or using. He's got the apartment, so to speak. Someone comes and visits him once a week and checks it out, sees how he's doing. Yeah. But if he drinks or use, if he does that, he's disqualified from that place. Well, this is in a way, it's not like the before the bondage of self disappears, but it will not be appearing to you if you drink and use again. Yeah. Usually you're now that coming in and out through the before and after, there's only the after now. Seemingly that door gets slammed, and then you have to do a lot of shit to allow that door to open again. So the important thing is not doing, which is drinking and using. Yeah. And then the doing is going to be suited for wherever you're at and whatever's going on. Yeah. That's how I see it right now. Not doing alcohol and drugs gives me a lot of fucking freedom, obviously. Yeah. Let that get established. We're in the habit of being sober, a lot of us. That opens up tons of doors. Yeah. Remember, it was the huge impediment drinking and using. That's been removed. Yeah, fucking, it's awesome.
Hey, Walter raised his hand.
All right, Walter.
Go ahead, Walter. You're muted, Walter.
Can't hear you, Walter.
You're muted, Walter.
Sorry, like this?
Yeah.
Okay. I also come more and more to the point. Also today, I was talking with quite a few fellows. I saw a son from a good friend coming back. I helped him a lot out. I knew he was gonna fall back. He did fall back. Anyway, he comes back in the place. We chit-chatted a bit. Well, I also come to the point, from we can make very complicated stories. You call it selfing, by the way, this time I heard you made it very complicated, but I come more and more to the point that it's all fucking misunderstanding, I mean, my mother became an old woman, 95. She was not an alcoholic, she was quite clever. And just before she died, she suddenly realized that whole her bloody life she was repressing her sadness. She never could deal with her what's the English word? With her grief. I mean, very sad. And now I'm sober for a couple of years, which never happened before in my life, and I'm not struggling with it. Sometimes today I was quite feeling irie, and no special reason, and I get suspicious about it. Is that okay? But that is how life should be, And I did cry a lot, and I don't know why. But I never knew how to deal with my anger, how to deal with my sadness, and so on. And I was always afraid of my anger, for my rage, And it's not happening anymore, I mean, even don't want to deal with people anymore who are in a rage for hours. I know the politics is fucked up. I know we are in a war, and so misunderstanding about such a simple things, misunderstanding about sexuality and so on, the perversions, just a misunderstanding, unlived sexual life, and am I gonna go now to Thailand all day to recover my sexuality? No, it's gone. Bye. Thank you. Because that I see a lot in the recovery scene, old men, they're finally sober and clean, and then they're becoming fucking sexual perverts, How sad can it be, You're 60, from, oh my, and they think they're 18, Ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway,
Like Bert said, sit back and then watch the show.
yeah.
Yeah.
But all the psychology and the psychiatry, it's very simple things are not being understood, And of course, then it gets so fucking complicated. Like the same like the German philosophers. Already centuries, they've got a few good points, they're right, and then they make a whole story up, and then it becomes nonsense again, And they teach that on the bloody universities,
Yes.
And I mean, but when I keep on yapping about it, I get excited about it, I get angry about it, and then I get into selfing, and then I want to change the world, and blah, 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 blah. So I keep to my cup of tea, and tomorrow morning I'm chair in service at 6 o'clock. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, great, Walter. Good. Yeah. It's been a great pleasure, Walter, to have you here all these years. So
You've seen my recovery, man.
I have, yes.
I've been when I first came on. I just had a brain. How you call this? Infarct. I was in a psychosis. Physically, everything was just totally fucked up.
Yes.
I'm happy that I understood this step one finally. And now I'm suddenly start understanding this Taoism. Also that's the first thing. From hey, I don't know. Surrender again and again, I did the fourth step, maybe I didn't do it roughly enough, but now I'm scared to go again and again. Then I'm making all kind of things up, you know, which never happens, you know. So I'm at peace with people. So, and
Good to watch, Walter. It's been good to watch, man.
it's a bloody miracle, man. It's a bloody miracle. I expected to die.
It's loved it. It's a shared miracle, which is great. Yes, we all. Yeah. Thank you so much, really, for all the years.
Thank you. This year's passed by like strange things are happening with time. I have to think about it. That is already all these years, you know, that I come back to these meetings, and it's just like it's just going on for a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking weird, this time phenomenon.
Well, freshness withstands the effect of time.
Exactly.
Yeah. The spirit is always fresh. Yeah.
It's every time new, man. The trees start talking. Every time new, the trees are start talking to me, even in the city, you know. I used to get fed up with all the buildings, with all the hustle from the city. I don't notice it anymore, you know.
Good.
My neighbor woman is complaining about a rebuilding here on top of my head. Yeah, what are you talking about? It doesn't bother me, you know. It really doesn't.
Oh, traveling lighter. Yes.
Exactly. Thank you, man.
Great. All right. Anyone else, or will?
Thanks, Walter.
God bless you. Yeah. All right. Well, then we'll start saying goodbye, Kurt.
Yeah, sounds good.
You got Kerry in Hawaii. Kerry's there's a process of a house being built on Kerry's property that I saw when I was in Hawaii a couple of years ago. Very nice. Axel, nice to see you. Melody in Phoenix, nice to see you, Melody. Must be cooking in Phoenix. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Nice. We had 90 here yesterday. That's like a balmy day in Phoenix. Yeah. Hey, we got Joseph C. Nice to see you, Joseph. Mickey, as always, the matriarch of Madeira. Michael Stacy, a man of his word. David S. Oh, nice to see David dropping in.
Good day.
Roman Mueller. Mike M. There he is. Nice to see you, Mike. A key hero. Lucia, Oliver in Berlin, Ben, Greg B, Paula, Cathay in Quebec. Thank you, Cathay, for sending all that stuff. Appreciate it. So nice to not, I can't see you, but nice to meet you. Phone numbers. Yeah. Thank you today. Today was, I got a little flavor with this before and after, and I like when I get a flavor of that which has no quality. It's very cool. So it's nice to taste the untastable. I'm going to use it until it runs out. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul.